Well, good morning again. Um, Thought I'd go into a little bit more detail as to what I mean by a concentration camp. Like manufacturing has been completely almost outsourced to China, all of our administrative faculties have been outsourced to digital, computerized, automated mechanisms. And this has allowed complacency to set in every single government department, in every single state, in every single country across the world. And this is what I'm claiming to be a digital concentration camp. We have now a party, the West Australian Labor Party, that I have contacted on this platform thousands of times. I've sent detailed videos, including this one, which will be sent to them, detailing my experience as a child with a parent that was initiated into this mental health fiction, and the pharmaceutical intervention and how it is a failed experiment. Right now, on the front page of most newspapers across the country, there is the very beginnings of the pushback of the transgender affirmation experiment that is coming down in flames because of coarseness. Most creative people, they might change their exterior characteristics sometimes on a weekly basis. And the concepts that they speak about, the fluidity of gender, is in just complete Hippocratic, sorry, I'm stumbling a bit this morning, complete act of hypocrisy, because how can we have something fluid that needs to be changed? The idea of something fluid instantly tells us that that may change. And so these massive intervention strategies in something that they themselves are considering as fluid just doesn't make sense. And of course it doesn't. There's been tons of people across the entire world that have been saying it doesn't make sense. Yet it's still got inside our hospitals, inside our government, inside our schools, inside our libraries, inside every single department. It got itself hoisted up the flagpoles of some of the most prestigious buildings in our capital cities across the country. This is because of this automated system. They are not doing the very basics that is required to govern a country or a state. Their job doesn't just fall into receiving criticism and adequately assessing each piece of relevant criticism. It should also go into investigation of unseen phenomenon emerging from its very system if it is not appropriately responding and acting on clearly addressed and directed critique of their systems. Then how on earth is it independently investigating uncriticised phenomenon that may emerge from changing the entire system and installing it into a digital environment? Yet they continuously push further in to limit this speech on the same digital platforms that they themselves are ignoring criticism on. That's a concentration camp. It's a concentration camp of, as we say, or not at all. It's actually worse than most cases of religious persecution and religious concentration camps that have been installed before, because it is a political, socialistic, all in or all out system. Every single organisational structure that has ever been made requires a feedback loop to be appropriately installed in order to assess and redirect attention to failing concepts. This applies in systems that have been working flawlessly for long periods of time. When you change the entire system and digitalise it and start using analogous things, so this system replaces this, and so it's automated, then the emphasis on a feedback loop being installed is even more important, because you've removed eyes, ears, and all the senses that a person in that position would possess, that can put up their hand and say, hey, I'm noticing something going wrong. So automatically, by automating your system and digitizing it, you are removing existing feedback loops, existing feedback systems that were installed by purely having individuals in those positions. As I looked and just left the casino, which basically, that casino has things the same. I've been in and out of this casino for the last 2 weeks, potentially suspicious. I've never gone in the gambling rooms, and I've never once stayed in the hotel. Yet I'm walking in and out, and not one person has questioned me on what my behaviour is. If I was, and I'm not, if I was potentially seeking to do harm, bar the one person that actually she should get a job somewhere in investigation, bar the one person that did question me, not one person said anything. I sat this morning in the dining area. I walked in there, sat down, and could have quite easily picked up a plate and enjoyed the all-you-can-eat buffet from that buffet this morning, and not one person would have questioned me. This is an example of a retail, because this is a retail establishment, system that has fallen into automation, that has fallen into a system that is not regulating its own structure. Now, me getting an all-you-can-eat buffet and not paying for it is kind of a small inconvenience to a company this large. Me being a terrorist and potentially planting 7,000 bombs across the place without being questioned once, that's a larger thing. And I can 100% say, if I seeked to do that, it would have been done. This is all levels of all organisations across the globe. We are a sieve, leaking water and susceptible to attack, to infiltration, and to exploitation of our automated systems across the board. Now, as I left the casino this morning, I looked up on the shoreline. There's a little pocket here that, because of the current, a bit like the garbage patch in the Pacific, it accumulates all the plastic waste, and there's quite a lot there all the time. Most of this plastic waste is produced in China, and it washes up on our shorelines, and on the shorelines of Pacific countries across the Pacific, all regions, are covered in this litter. Now, strangely this morning, this is what I found: a plastic train. Now, it's a train. It was the celebration of a train's birthday on a very particular date by the head by the Premier, Roger Cook, in Western Australia, the head of the West Australian Labor Party, on the date of the largest attack on Israel that had been seen since the Holocaust. Hostages from that attack are still held by a terrorist group known as Hamas. There is no way that any politician in any political theatre across the globe would not realise that this was inappropriate time to be wishing happy birthday to a train. My questioning of this is directly what resulted in me being blocked on Facebook by the Premier, Roger Cook. This was the first step that made me aware of what they are doing over in Western Australia as we speak. This constant attempt by them to draw us into their digital system by offering free money, basically, continuously, whilst at the same time limiting the ability for anyone to speak up on the social platforms that exist, and failing to respond to any criticism anywhere, whilst continuously projecting their authority upon the land, is the largest misuse of power that I've ever seen. His predecessor, Mark McGowan, and his statements directed on mainstream media that Clive Palmer was an enemy of the state. Not he didn't say he said he is an enemy of the state for criticising the vaccine rollout and the mandates. He said he should be considered an enemy of the Commonwealth. Roger Cook stepped into his position as he retired from politics, non-elected by the Australian people. Then, when it came time to have an election, they outsourced that electoral process to a Singaporean company. And there was mass outcry from thousands and thousands of citizens saying that it was the worst run election that they can remember. I myself have fled the state after my mentally ill mother, from one phone call, phoned up 2 police officers who forcibly removed me from a place that I had been on and off residing in and had physically built myself with my own hands in order to protect my mother's assets after she was divorced. I was physically removed from that property behind a Union Jack flag with 2 officers that walked in with guns, loaded guns, and forcibly removed me from the property. When I said that this would mean that I would leave the state, they continued on and forcibly removed me from the property. This is all 2 minutes. This whole malarkey was initiated 2 minutes after my mother left a taxi from a mental institution. This is non-stop. They are completely out of any structure that was established under the United Kingdom, under the British Empire, under our federal government policy. They are completely rogue. They are completely infiltrated. They have installed cameras and surveillance across the nation. They have removed the ability for any underage people to get public assistance or to publicly state their potential abuse by this system. They have continuously pushed this trans agenda onto the citizens via their social media and via their protection of hospitals that have been doing this. This is a socialist coup that has been installed, and they are building a system that if you criticise, you will end up in jail, as I did. That is a concentration camp. It is a digital concentration camp that has been installed across the entire state and should be immediately and permanently destroyed. And these people should be brought to justice immediately. They are the most incompetent cohort of corrupt individuals that I have ever seen or witnessed historically. These aren't the Hitlers and the Stalins. These are more than likely mentally challenged individuals that have been propped up to positions of power, and while people pull strings behind the scenes, they are ushering the West Australian people into a dystopian hell on the other side of the country, that unless people like me remove themselves from that and bring themselves to places where they have safe harbour and historical legacy within the land, then no one will know. This should be an emergency liberation of the West Australian people before it is too late. The large amount of people employed by the mining and resources sector and the global pandemic allowed them to build this system. When I left, so not only do they have ghost trains going to Yanchep after spending billions of dollars to employ their recently imported army to police unofficially their strategies across the land, I was told that I am not allowed to have a trolley filled with my belongings in order to go to the airport on an almost empty train. I was told this by 6 Transperth guards that were all employed to oversee one train station. There were 6 paid employees paid to police one train station and told me to remove myself from the train, which if I was running just in time, I would have missed my flight because I had a shopping trolley that had my belongings in it after the trolley that I had brought myself was disabled. That is too many people to be employed just merely for the security of a train. And they weren't policing security, they were policing gobbledygook, that I'm not allowed to have a trolley on a train while I'm going to the airport, because they don't care, because the system is built for a person going to FIFO with one bag. That is where our government money is going. When I was forced from and dragged an hour south from a regional small town where everybody knows each other into a watch house that was completely like an army of government employees policing everyone, locking everyone up without anything. I faced the kangaroo court there, which was a complete farce. The individual who processed me into a maximum security prison had nothing at all. Didn't listen to one piece of information that I'd put forward to him about the fact that I was actually documenting this step into a dystopian digital hell in which individuals can be assessed, cherry-picked information from individuals that have walled themselves behind restraining orders can go in to someone's social media profile, which that's then basically, as far as I'm concerned, if you've got a restraining order and you enter someone's digital space, you're breaking and entering and you are creating a tumultuous, and you cannot wall yourself behind these systems that were designed to actually protect people and then attack, which is what was happening to me from the beginning. Approximately 5 days after I had restraining orders put on me, my bank account was shut down by the individual that placed the restraining order on me. This is completely ridiculous. They are protecting their own down to the craziest levels. They are attempting to remove guns. They are attempting to remove voices from regional people purely because they have brought an army to make this move on the West Australian people. And we need to immediately send across the Nullarbor a signal that no further escalation of this strategy will be accepted. If I'm not supported by the federal government or by the Defence Force, then I will do it myself. And I will find regions across the earth that are willing to go in and protect the individuals of Western Australia from their very own leadership that is ushering them into hell. This has all been installed in the last 10 years, purposefully, methodically, and unable to be stopped from inside those walls. And the conformity to whatever the government is saying in that region, as Mark McGowan said himself, they are a very compliant people. And that is because they are in some ways spoilt by their beautiful climate and by the false exterior that's been installed around them, by the welfare state that makes them completely impervious to feeling or observing any of the more intricate financial weapons that are being used to usher them into complete communism. And their isolation from the rest of the country is making them the perfect training ground and proving ground for concepts that I believe are going to be attempted on the rest of Australia if we do not push back now and expose this immediately. It is unacceptable in any physical location to ignore consistent warnings of dangerous activity, of immoral activity, of activity that, if acted in the physical world, would be complete violations of human rights. They are skating in this digital environment. They are proving it there. They are testing and getting it to be accepted, and then they push that onto the physical world, and they are removing the way to respond or to call for help. And they are doing that at the most disgusting level by doing that to our younger people. 16 and under are now unable to post or to consume any content in the digital environment. Which, what does that leave them? They're going to write a letter, are they? How many letters would have I had to have written? And who would I address those letters to in this situation? These systems that can liberate us and improve our situations by communication, are being used to squeeze down humanity. And the example that is being set by the West Australian Labor Party is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. To stifle a technology that could be used for the betterment of humanity and to squeeze it into a communist, dystopian prison colony. Not initiated like this colony was, but by infiltration by financial and geopolitical leaders that only seek to use our population to extract our resources and to send them there, or to process them there, and to have it all contained on the other side of the country where no one over here sipping lattes gives a shit about. Well, it's got to end. And it's got to end very, very soon.